Hi, my name is Paul McKellar. As I said, I'm a founding team member of Square. What that means is I joined Square before there was any venture capital. I know that Square is not currently in Hong Kong, so I'd just like to go through and explain what Square is very, very briefly. Square is a credit card processing terminal for your iPhone. What that means is if I am in a band and I'm selling t-shirts, I can use my iPhone, plug a device into it, and then take your credit card, swipe it on the device, and move money from your bank account into my bank account. There are a lot of credit card processing platforms, but there are very few for the iPhone. In this speech, I'm going to tell you how I got started, why I joined Square, what I saw in Square at the very beginning, what I did while I was at Square, and what I do now. This is my background. So I'm an electrical engineer. I started out making airplane parts. I see a couple of people are airplane engineers. I have made airplane parts that are in over 230 different types of airplanes, both commercial and otherwise. I enjoyed it quite a bit. It was my first job. But that being said, I really love making products that people use and see. I don't like making products that are hidden behind a veil of obscurity. I like things that people get to look at and then bring towards them and then actually talk about. And Square is all of those things. So while I was making airplane parts, I started making a website for my friends. On this website, we would take inside jokes that we made on a weekly basis, and we'd put it on the website, and then we'd joke about the jokes. And it was a lot of fun, and I had more and more friends who came to my dinner parties join this website. So after about 6 months, I had 2,000 people using this website, which isn't a lot of people, but it was good enough to do something else. It was good enough to get me into Y Combinator. Many of you probably know what Y Combinator is, but in case you don't, it is a seed funding angel investment firm out of Silicon Valley. When I joined Y Combinator, there were approximately 12 companies per batch. That is incredibly small compared to what it is now. Now there are over 80 companies in every batch. Y Combinator has become a international sensation. There are clones of Y Combinator in almost every major city. It is a really wonderful organization, and I'm very lucky to have been part of it in 2007. What was the most amazing thing about Y Combinator is they're willing to see people with an idea and then give them a small amount of money and get them into the right community. And this was incredibly important because the community that they created was potentially the best group of peers that anyone could possibly have, or at least people that are interested in making websites. It was a small group of people that all liked making websites and then launching them and then producing companies around them. And in 2007, that was still a very strange thing. Now, I got into Y Combinator with SocialMoth. At about the same time, Facebook launched their platform. And I took SocialMoth and I embedded it into the Facebook platform. And while there's a lot of things that the Facebook platform is now, what it originally was the ability to use Facebook's social graph and mix it with your content. I launched on the Facebook platform and literally had millions of users overnight. That is a phenomenal ability for one person sitting alone at a computer. I put a lot of advertisements on it. I made a decent amount of money and then sold the company, and it was a lot of fun. But it got me to where I was in Silicon Valley, where I knew a good network of people. So how did I find Square, and what did I see in Square? How did I know that Square was an innovative business? I'm sorry about this slide. It's the only slide which looks like it didn't get copied correctly. OK, I was working on credit cards even before I had heard about Square. I thought that credit card processing was actually really hard to do, and I wanted to make it a lot easier. So I was wandering around the valley, talking to angel investors, trying to get money for my credit card processing company. And angel investors kept on telling me the same thing. They kept on saying, oh, have you talked to Jack Dorsey, the guy who invented Twitter? Jack Dorsey is also doing credit card processing. It's really weird that you're also doing it. You should go talk to him. It's very similar. So I emailed Jack and I said, I'm working on credit card processing. Do you want to get coffee sometime? He said, yes, absolutely. Please meet me at Cyclass Coffee, which was actually merchant 1 or 2 on the Square network. And then we can see, if we are doing the same sort of thing. I went and I talked to Jack. I saw Square, and I was just amazed. Even very early on, a couple months into Square, it was a very, very beautiful product. It was incredibly simple to use, and it had a whole bunch of aspects about it which I thought were really, really powerful. I'm going to go through those in a minute. But after going on a rant to Jack about how big Square was going to be, he offered me a job on the spot. I said, nope, don't want to join it. This was a silly thing. Square was clearly going to be big, and I said no, that was not a good idea. I reconsidered 2 weeks later, and I joined Square before we did a venture round. Now, a lot of people think that I'm oversimplifying when I said I just emailed Jack. So I actually dug into my email and found the original email. This is me emailing Jack. It is literally what I just said. Hey, Jack, do you want to hang out at Cyclass? And he said, yep. This is Cyclass Coffee. The Square terminal is off to the right. If you're ever in San Francisco, I recommend that you check them out. OK, now I'm going to go into depth about how much I liked Square and what I liked about Square. What combination of business aspects and technology aspects made Square a really interesting business and allowed Square to go from 5 people programming in Jack's apartment up to 500 people now in a $3 billion plus company. So on the right side of the slide, you see a traditional point of sale system. It is clunky. It is ugly. That one costs about well, that is a computer, so probably about $10,000, but there are some that cost as little as $800. And they're usually about this big, and they have about 50 buttons on them. Now, a traditional point-of-sale system can cost as little as $800, but Square, which can be used on your iPhone, or iPod Touch, which costs as little as $150. That is a huge difference right there. If I am looking at 2 different point-of-sale systems, one of them costs $800 and one of them costs $150, it's going to be a really clear choice as to which one I'm going to try. And there's something that's even more important. Many people had Square or a Square-capable device, like an iPhone or an Android phone, already in their pocket. And so the difference was $800 or using something that you probably already own. That makes it even more clear. If you're sitting on your couch and you hear about this, you can try Square from something that you already own. That is so powerful. That alone makes Square incredibly useful. Now, these credit card processing terminals are really interesting. So you pay $800, and they make them so that they're tamper-proof. So what that means is that if I take a screwdriver and I try and open a credit card processing terminal, it'll actually implode and break itself to prevent me from changing something about it. Now, that is great from a theft or tampering point of view, but it causes a lot of problems. If I have a point-of-sale system and I'm moving stuff around my coffee shop, there's a good chance that I will drop it on the floor and it'll actually implode. So something that I just spent $800 for will implode. That does not make people very happy. On the other hand, Square, still $150, works on an iPod Touch. If you drop it, it probably doesn't implode. The screen might break, but you can still actually use it. And if you want to replace it, you can go across the street to an electronics shop and buy a new one. It is so much easier to replace. If you want to replace the $800 point-of-sale system, what you have to do is you have to call a company, and then you have to wait 3 days. While you're waiting 3 days for it to show up in the mail, you have a sign in front of your register saying, "We do not accept credit cards." The worst thing ever is to say, I have something to sell, and have some people come to you and say, I would like that, and then not be able to accept their money. Merchants will often give you free stuff because they do not want to disappoint you because they are in a weird situation where they cannot accept your money. So now Square allowed people to say, that's okay, it's only going to be an hour, we're going to go get a new point of sale system. And that had never before happened. Okay, now these point of sale systems, they actually plugged into a phone line. That's how long ago they were designed. So it makes no sense to me that we have these devices which can connect to any server in the world, and yet we're still using devices that require phone lines. I would often go into a venue of some sort, like, for example, a bar, and there will be two bars. There'll be one bar on the left and one bar on the right. And the bar on the left will not accept credit cards, and the bar on the right will accept credit cards. And the reason is because they only had one phone line, and it was on the right side of the building. So whenever you buy something, if you wanted to take credit cards and you're at the wrong bar, they direct you to the other side of the building. That makes no sense. In many situations, they already had Wi-Fi set up. The employees already had an iPhone or an iPod Touch, and if not, they were willing to buy them. Square made a lot of sense to these people to get rid of phone lines. Also, you're often paying $30 a month just for the phone line, which makes no sense if you already have Wi-Fi and internet. So the last step, it's really easy to learn. I thought this one was really subtle. Merchants often hire people to run the cash register for them. Those people are often teenagers. Those teenagers are not motivated to learn point-of-sale systems. They see a device and there are 50 buttons and they just don't care. And merchants have to teach a teenager almost every month, because they have a high turnover. Every month a new person comes in and works and another person quits and goes back to school. So every month they have to teach these teenagers something new. And that is a big frustration. Whenever you save merchants time or money, you're going to have a huge win. So here's what Square did that nobody else did. We had a device that looked like something that the teenagers were already comfortable with. Every teenager has seen an iPhone. Every teenager has used iPhone software. We had software that looked like something which they liked and used. And so it was really easy for them to pick up Square and use it. That saved all of our merchants a lot of time in training, something that nobody had ever considered before. And we had something even more amazing. We could update that software. It sounds really simple because you guys have updated all of your apps probably thousands of times, but nobody could do that before we launched point of sale on your iPhone. Okay, 3 more. It's easy to start. So self-service is a big theme in internet technologies. One of the most powerful things that Google did was allow you to have self-service ads. It used to be that people would talk to you about advertising, but Google made it so that you could go up and say, I want to buy ads for carpets that have cats on them. And that allowed for long tails to exist. That allowed for an amazing market to exist. Square was the first company that did self-service for point-of-sale systems. Nobody else had done that. You didn't have to come and talk to us. We could just take your phone out of your pocket, download the software, and then sign up, which brings me to my second thing. Our sign up took 60 seconds. In America, to accept credit cards, what you have to do is you have to go to a bank and you have to get something called a merchant account. Merchant accounts are basically saying, I believe that this person who just walked into my bank is not going to steal any money. So you go to the bank and you say, hi, my name is Paul. I make carpets that have cats on them, and I am not going to defraud you. And the banker looks you at the eye and decides whether or not he believes you. And if he doesn't believe you, then you have to go to another bank. We threw all that away. We said, all right, we are going to do something that nobody's ever done. We are going to take consumer credit and we're going to translate it into merchant credit. So we're going to look at you and decide, based on information that's already out there, whether or not you are likely to defraud the system, and then we're going to apply it to a new context. Nobody had ever done that. It was kind of a big deal. And you can use it immediately. Within 60 seconds, you can immediately start taking money. Now, this sounds like I've already talked about it, but there's a detail to it that's really important. So let's say I'm at a craft fair, and there's a person next to me who is currently accepting credit cards, and I don't accept credit cards. I'm capable of looking over and seeing them accept credit cards using their iPhone, asking them about it, and then immediately sign up for it. At Square, what we do is we take bowls of Square devices and we put them in places where people probably want them, like craft fairs or fish markets or really any kind of market. And that allows people to immediately start using it. So in the morning, you could not accept credit cards, but in the afternoon, you could accept credit cards, something that nobody had done. So Square did a lot of things in getting people on the system, but we also did a lot of things that made the system feel really good. When you used to accept credit card payments, the bank would take your money and put it into their bank account for 30 days. And then at the end of 30 days, it would send it to you. Now, that means that that bank is making money on your money for 30 days. That was ridiculous. Square started giving you money at the end of every single day. And that is a really big thing for merchants. So you may or may not know this, but many merchants have very small margins. They only make 1% to 2% on their actual products. So what they do is they have product and they buy the product and they sell the product. But if their money goes somewhere else, then they can't buy more product and can't sell more product. So the faster they get their money back, the more quickly they're able to move the money to buy more stuff and sell more stuff. Every business that's built on top of Square has the possibility of being more successful than a business that's built on other companies because we gave people their money faster. The faster you can turn over goods and money, the more successful you're likely to be. We also gave money to people without actually knowing them. This relates to what I previously described in the sense that you didn't have to come in, you didn't have to talk to anyone. We would immediately, if you process $1,000, send you $1,000. We built in this sort of windowed distribution of money that nobody had ever done before. Now, when I sign up for a merchant account, first I get the merchant account, but the second thing they try and do is they try and give me 5 other things. They try and give me business checking, business saving, security box, like a website, other physical checks. This is called bundling. We debundled this entire thing. We said, we will work with any other savings account that you want to. You can use this immediately with whatever you're currently using. That allowed people to use us with their current savings account, even if they weren't business banking. The reason banks do this is they think it's a really exceptional way of making money. It is a way of making money, it's just not an exceptional one. It's very dubious, in fact. Here's one that I think is really interesting. When you do credit card payments, you often offer a very small rate to people. But then after you offer that small rate, you charge them with lots of hidden fees. What this is called is price shrouding, and Square said we are not going to do anything of that. We decided that instead of trying to make money by lying to people about how simple and easy we were going to stick to our guns and we were going to change the actual industry that we were joining. We're going to say, we are actually simple, there are no hidden fees. This was a very dangerous decision because this is how everyone in the industry made money. And we decided to go against that grain and stick to what we believed in. Now a lot of people are following us. We're actually changing the way the industry is working, which is an amazing thing in many ways. Okay, on to the technical part of my conversation. I'm going to describe to you how tech at Square works, how a credit card actually gets into your phone, and how it goes on to the bank. So, Square is not currently in Hong Kong, and that is because of a lot of reasons. We hope to be in Hong Kong soon, but if you've ever seen Square, you might notice something that's very surprising. It plugs into the audio jack on the top of your iPhone and not the dock on the bottom of your iPhone. Now, that means something that's kind of interesting. Instead of transmitting a digital signal into the phone, what we do is we translate your your credit card number into an audio signal, and then it goes in the microphone on the top of your phone. So on the back of your credit card is a magnetic stripe. If you take that magnetic stripe and move it very quickly past a circle of wire, that creates electricity. The electricity goes into the microphone and is then translated into the credit card number, which is then set up to the bank, and we figure out whether or not that credit card is a legitimate credit card and then move money from one bank account to the other account. And that all happens in 2 seconds. Something that a lot of people don't realize is that cell phones are not meant to do this. This is a pretty brutal engineering effort. Every single Android phone has a different set of audio electronic equipment in there. So we actually have to have a different profile for every single Android phone. And if in case you haven't checked recently, there are hundreds of Android phones. And people don't necessarily ask when they're going to use Square on the Android phones. From the web sense, and I'm a web engineer, in a very simplified way, there are 5 RESTful API calls. The stack is Nginx, Rails, and MySQL. Excuse me, the stack when we launched is Nginx, Rails, and MySQL. After that, we included Redis for basic session information, small things that were non-persistent. Then we added Postgres for location-based information. And then we added small amounts of NoSQL for basic sort of fraud, log analytics, things like that. Why did we choose this tech? We knew Rails. We knew MySQL. Many of us had done Rails and MySQL for years. We knew every single weird thing that those 2 technologies would do, and we knew how to avoid them. It was the wrong time to experiment. We were a payments company through technology. We were not a technology company. It was the wrong time to make a new database. It was the wrong time to use a weird database. What we had already done was impressive enough. We had decided to put a point-of-sale system on the iPhone. It was not important that we change everything on the web and reinvent the web. We did the simplest thing that could possibly work. I'm going to talk a lot about pragmatic decisions. Pragmatic decisions are using something that you understand very well and using it in the right situation. A lot of people like to ask me about the cloud. It is actually against our terms of service to use the cloud. Unfortunately, although the cloud is a very powerful thing, we actually have to own our own computers and provide a certain amount of physical security associated with those computers. We actually have to have a sign-in sheet, a box that is around all of them. We cannot process on the cloud, unfortunately. It'd be wonderful if we could, but it was not part of Square's. We did not use the cloud. Big data. I'm going to go through a little mathematical thought experiment, so to speak, and these are all fake numbers. Let's say that you process $10 million a day, and each transaction is $50. That means there are 70 million transactions a year. 73 million events. And if you assume that it is 1 kilobyte per event, that is 70 gigabytes of data a year. 70 gigabytes is not a lot of data. 70 gigabytes will get you through the first year at Square. It was not necessary to immediately jump into big data. I know that this is a big data conference, but I'm going to speak a little bit contrarian in the sense that it was not necessary for us to do big data to make Square exist. Big data is very helpful for things like fraud, but that's once you already exist and you have many years to develop those as you gather lots of data. When you're starting a company, it is very important to make pragmatic decisions. And a pragmatic decision is saying, wait, 70 gigs of data after a year, we can handle this. We don't need big data yet. These are some of the things that I worked on. I'm happy to answer questions on any of them afterwards. They include everything about the API, the original dashboard, refunds, tipping, user photos, address verification, sign up through the web, which was the original sign up through the API, which is later launched, the checkout flow. We actually have a lot of thought into how people check out, every single screen on an iPhone app. Itemization, which you see on the iPad and recently on the iPhone. Receipts and identity verification, which is how we tell you what you bought and how we know you're not going to steal money. Now, I used to do Square. I was part of the founding team of Square. I left about a year and a half ago. Right now I work on something called Juno.js. It is very new. It is a very simple website for people who program in JavaScript. I love talking about JavaScript. If any of you are interested in talking about JavaScript, I'd be happy to talk your ear off. I have a couple of extra things, but I think I might be out of time. How am I doing? More time? All right, I'm going to go through some cool stories. So weird stories at Square. People will always use anything that you make for illegal things. If you go onto YouTube, there's a lot of really amazing original content on YouTube, but there's also people trying to upload illegal stuff. It is very important to be vigilant. Square has the exact same problem. You have to really be on that because if people use it for the wrong thing, then it can be quite bad. I'm sure you can imagine some of the stuff that goes on with Square and what kind of stuff that people sell. There are weird cashback incentives with credit card processing. This is a very small, odd story. We had our fraud detection system flag someone, and we noticed that they had taken their own credit card, sat on their couch, and swiped it for $1.01 100 times. And we're like, that's really weird. Why is this guy swiping his own credit card in his own merchant account? It's literally taking the money, processing it from his credit card into his bank, taking out our fee, so he's, in theory, losing money, but he still did it. So we called the guy and we said, hey, what are you doing? What's going on? His bank was actually giving him $1 every time he used his credit card. So he sat on the couch and made $100. And, there's nothing wrong with that. The guy's a smart guy. Luckily, that was the limit of his antics. I'm going to skip to the next ones because I think they're better. We actually hand-milled the first 100 squares. You can actually go to a place in Southern California and use these industrial manufacturing things and make springs and make the things and solder them and give them to people. They were the worst squares in the world, but it's very important to understand that like we didn't immediately go to a factory and say, this is what we want. We made things, showed them to people, and used them for months before we actually built a factory in China that's based entirely on making squares. The original square, this is the second one, the original square was actually made out of metal. It was horrible, and we couldn't figure out why it was horrible. And it turned out that people were holding their phone, and the square sits right here, right? People were holding their phone and steadying it by putting their thumb and forefinger around the square. And because the square was metal, the heartbeat of the person was actually being fed straight into the square and causing a type of noise. It took a long time to figure that out. It's really weird that when you give someone a metal square, some people it works perfectly for, some people it doesn't work for at all, and it's because of the way they're holding it. You expect it to be part of the hardware on the inside of the square. Springs are really hard to make. There are possibly 5 different designs of springs in the square thing. Plastic, really also hard to make. All of the original squares were incredibly ugly, and we found a plastic manufacturer who's the same as Apple, who made our plastic devices, and now they're really beautiful and shiny. And as soon as we found this, like we couldn't stand any of the old squares. The original square did not even work in the original iPhone. You couldn't even actually plug it in, because if you remember, the original iPhone had a recessed headphone jack, so the square would only get 95% of the way there, and it couldn't actually be used. So we'd send these squares to people, and they'd use them on the original iPhone because our software would work there. And they'd say, I don't know, it doesn't seem to work at all. It took a long time to figure out what was going on, because many of us had iPhones, and we assumed that people would actually visually inspect their square when they were plugging them in.
Thank you, Mr. Killer.